Thank you. Okay, we'll get started with our meeting tonight. This is West Haven City Council meeting. Today is April 15th, 2026. It is now 6 o'clock. My name is Rob Vanderwood. I'm the mayor of West Haven, and we'll be conducting this meeting. Overall, we're glad to have those with us, that are staff, our council. We're here tonight. We're excusing Councilmember Saunders and our legal counsel. They're out of town tonight. We appreciate having Lieutenant Ensley from the Weber County Sheriff's Office here, and also other staff members of our great staff here at West Haven. We appreciate you being here online and also being here in present too. If you got things you would like to talk to the council about, you can do so during our time that you can do that on the schedule, which is nice. So, but we'll get started with from the very beginning off here with our opening ceremonies. We'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be done by Councilmember Call, and our prayer or moment of silence will be by Councilmember Morse.
Please stand and repeat the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this day that we could come together as a council and make decisions on behalf of the residents of this city. Father, we ask that you guide us today and help us make the right decisions for the residents. We also ask that you provide safety to those that are overseas fighting wars for our country. We ask that you protect them and that you bring them home safely. Father, we also ask that you look after those that are protecting our streets here in West Haven, the first responders, the law enforcement officers. Please protect them and make sure that they are able to get home to their families safely at the end of each shift. Father, we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Call and Councilmember Morse for that. We'll move on to item 3, our public presentations. This is a chance for residents attending this meeting. There will be allotted 3 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any items that are presented, but we'd love to have you come up. If we have someone like come forward, please just state your name and address and talk to us a little bit about it. Does anyone like to come forward at this time? Come on up.
Yeah, my name is Tyler Peterson. I live on 3417 South, 2700 West. I'm the developer for the got the timer going now. Good. The Sunset Farms development. And I've already been in contact with Damien, and I appreciate him speaking with me on this. But we were made aware through one of our lot buyers that their building plan was delayed because there's not a cul-de-sac built on our subdivision. We have a working and legal turnaround. It's built to fire code. It's a hammerhead turnaround. It was part of the requirements by the city as far as part of us getting approved on our plat. We had that in place, and then to hear that some of our residents here are now unable to build a home based on something we were never made aware of, kind of concerns me, and I want to give the city the benefit of the doubt. I don't know what the things are in place, but I know this happened with Cottle Creek Homes, but they didn't have a turnaround and they built it. And if any of you need photos of that, I can give them to you. They put a turnaround in place so that then people could get their building permits. But we have the turnaround in place. It's been inspected. It's been approved by all these departments in the city. So I just wanted to make you all aware as part of the council of this issue, because it makes me look bad. I really am trying to make something nice in the city, and now I have individuals on our development that they have a construction loan that they're now on the line for and they're paying for, and they have to pay interest on that for something that I could have prevented if I had been aware earlier. And now, they're having to foot the bill for that. And that doesn't sit well with me, that I could have done something about it. I could have had a conversation. I could have, we could have I could have shown the city that we have this turnaround in place. But to be told that basically, I was told that we have to have our phase 2 cul-de-sac completed before building permits could be approved, which was not what we were ever advised or briefed on. So we have a turnaround. As you look into this situation, please reach out to me. I'd love to show it to you. I'd love to show you all the information, all the evidence that we're up to code, we're up to spec. We just want to give our residents the chance to build their home and not have to pay a lot of money to wait. So appreciate your time. I hope to hear back from you guys soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Sean, you'll check into that and just check on some things for him. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward at this time?
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Angela Chaburka, and I'm a candidate for House District 9. I actually live in Ogden City, but I just wanted to introduce myself and then also just let you know I'll be sending an email to introduce myself further. I would love to just connect with you and understand the needs of West Haven. I've served on the Ogden City Council for 8 years. I just retired from that position, but I definitely have a unique perspective that maybe we could share, just as far as how the state legislation impacts cities and vice versa. So I'd love to work with you and understand your needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Anyone else like to come forward?
Timer.
Anybody else intimidated by a beep? Hey, you're welcome to come up if you have any concerns or issues. Just state your name and address when you get to the mic.
You want my whole address? Yep,
Yes,
okay.
please.
I live at 4280 South, 3300 West in West Haven. And my concern is the flock cameras. So the state's putting up flock cameras everywhere, and I know that it's going up very quietly, and we're not really talking about it. And it's AI surveillance, and it tracks all of your movements, right? And the argument is that if we're not doing anything wrong, why do we care? Well, because we shouldn't be tracked all the time, and everyone should care about the overstepping of government surveillance. So I know that Flock is a private company. However, our president has signed a $600 billion deal with Palantir, which is also a surveillance tech company. And they're putting up the infrastructure all over the place. And I don't think we should be tracked. So it would be one thing, right? If you had to have a warrant and you needed all of this, like there was a bunch of safety in place, but there isn't. You don't have to have a warrant to get a hold of the information. And it matters. It's a really, really big deal. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks.
that. We'll look into a couple things and maybe get back with you if we can. Would that be okay? Okay,
Hey, Rob, can we speak to that real quick?
yes.
Is it possible to get a current policy update of how the sheriff's office accesses that information? If you have it, if not, we could send it in writing later.
Yeah, if you guys have just a minute. I
Yeah,
can
that'd
walk
be
through a
great.
couple things. So with Flock, what it's recording, at least the cameras in the city, what they're recording are vehicle data, right? License plates, make, model, color, unique features. That data that's captured by them is not connected to any sort of registered owner information, address information, none of that. That's a separate system, right? So you have to not only have the Flock data, but then have access to what we call UCGIS to get the information about owners, addresses, all that kind of stuff. Second, these cameras are placed to monitor public roadways. At least I'm talking about our use, to monitor public roadways. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable search and seizure. The test for a search is, do we have a government intrusion into an area where there's an expectation of privacy? And there is no expectation of privacy on a public roadway. Second, as far as how we're using it at the sheriff's office, our policies and procedures and safeguards in place. Flock requires a reason to go search. So if I go search for a particular vehicle, I have to enter a reason and a case number every time so that it can be audited and make sure that it's being used for the right reasons, right? Right now at our office, not everyone has search rights. The only people with search rights are supervisors and detectives. So that's just kind of another safeguard in place that not everyone can be running searches all the time, right? Any other specific questions I can speak to on that?
Do you guys have a written policy on how that operates with who gets to look at it through the department?
Yeah, we do have a policy in place for the ALPR use. Yep.
If we could view that, that'd be awesome. I know that's kind of evolved a little bit as the cameras have rolled out. There's also a lot of other cameras that are being put out right now throughout the state that are very different, that all the footage is going on social media, and that's not the flock cameras. That's different systems, correct?
Correct.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
we do have some cameras that are going on some of our lights above the lighting area. They're not flock cameras. So they're a different system on there for our emergency EMS vehicles. So it allows the light to actually change for them when they come through.
Okay.
So just so you know. Okay. But if you have any other questions, please get back with us on that. Okay. Yeah, if you can do it really quick. You come up to the mic because we got people online.
Wasn't prepared quite when I walked up here. So my other issue is that it's fine. Right now, we live in a constitutional republic and it's great, right? Why would we not want to be able to find a kidnapped child? Why would we not want to be able to find my car that was stolen, right? And all of those are seemingly very good reasons to have them. But we've had a lot of government overreach. They've been passing a lot of laws across the United States that are trying to take our rights away. And you could see the corruption that's going on. And the next time somebody gets into power that wants to use that for not so good reasons, then they have the ability because we let the infrastructure be there. And that's the real concern. It's what does it look like in 5 years from now?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Do you have something?
This is open for all concerns?
Yes.
Okay, this is what I want to make sure.
Just state your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, sir. My name's Adam Mott. I live at 2449 West Glover Lane in West Haven. I am I'm also the GOP chairman for precinct West Haven 13. So I'm actually speaking on behalf of my neighborhood and my precinct who I represent regarding some high density housing zoning questions and concerns. I know that high density housing has been a ongoing debate within West Haven City. I remember I actually came to the city council, this one particularly. There was a proposal about how there was some farmland off of Hinckley, I believe, that was being sold off and rezoned for semi-high density. So I know that's off the agenda tonight, but that's the type of concerns I wanted to bring forth. I guess that's my question. It's one of my first city councils. So how would I go about addressing those concerns?
You can actually get in touch with any of the council members or myself and
Okay.
have conversations about it. The council
Yeah.
members are the voting part of the legislation. But we're happy to, listen to some of the concerns and maybe try and address some of the things that you're concerned with.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that. And whenever there's an opportunity to have those discussions, I would like to have those with the council members so I understand how it's zoned and see how we can vote on how our city is zoned since most of the people that I represent are against high density housing. Okay.
So
Thank-
one other thing before you go, we're in process of working on our general plan right now.
Mhm.
So we have a great community developer, Stephen, right over Stephen Nelson.
Yes, sir.
But you're welcome to talk to any of the council or myself. We're on the website. You can reach us, on our email, and or you're welcome to call into the city and have a conversation as well. So feel free to. We want you to understand that we're here for you to help you understand what's
Yeah.
going on or what the people want. that's what our job is. So, but I will say that, yeah, overall, the city's done a really good job the last 4.5 years working on trying to make sure that we're slowing the growth down a little bit to catch up with infrastructure. So, but we will continue to have growth, and those are things that are going to happen, but we'd love to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. So Stephen, you'll be my guy. Awesome. Thank you so
We can
much.
help you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 4, our upcoming events. We have our senior lunch bunch at the Barn Community Center. That'll be on April 22nd at 11:30 a.m. And I think Councilmember Saunders is going to help with that day as well. We have our Utah League of Cities and Towns mid-year conference, which will be from the 22nd to the 24th. So a few of us won't be here for the senior lunch bunch, but we're going to that conference to get some training, land use, some things like that that'll be important. We also have our music circle at the Barn on April 27th at 7 p.m. And we have the infamous Touch a Truck that will be coming. We're pretty excited about that. The Touch a Truck is a great event. And for kids, the council will be serving hot dogs. I think all of us, right? We'll be working with hot dogs and trying to get things out to everyone and enjoy that event as well. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to get in touch with the city, and they can direct you if you have questions about bringing vehicles or whatever, family as well. Any other upcoming events I may have missed? Okay. We'll move on to item 5. Did you have a question?
Oh, just one other item that we meant to put on the
Mike's on it.
on the agenda that that was omitted is an upcoming special city council meeting for the 28th at 4 o'clock is the time that we identified several months ago. So if that still works, we'll plan on the 28th.
What was it again, Sean? Can you?
It's going to be April 28th at 4 o'clock here at the city. And we'll be reviewing
4 to 5:30.
Yeah, 4 to 5:30. Yeah, thank you.
And will that be available on Zoom as well?
Yeah, it will.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. We'll move on to item 5. Any council updates? Anything from any of your liaison positions? Anything on what's going on you'd like to share?
I have exciting news. We had our first Parks and Trails Committee meeting last night, and it was fabulous. So want to thank Landmark Designs. They actually hosted that for us last night. It was very similar to our last council meeting where they went through and did all of the questionnaires and such. So they were helping participate in that plan. That's not going to be the full direction of the committee, but it was just nice timing for them to kind of jump in and assist with that. So it was exciting to see them out there and their input. They're excited to help. So it's very neat.
Good. Excellent. And we always invite people to get involved with that as much as possible. So it's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Anything else from the council? Okay. All right, we'll move on to item 6, action on our consent agenda. Our council meeting minutes were held April 1st of 2026. And we have Cottonwood Title Company for $381,900 and closing costs for 3481 South and 2700 West. I think that's all we have for our consent agenda. Any questions or concerns with that? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
There's one update to the minutes on item 5. It should be the Lincoln Day luncheon instead of the Utah League.
Okay.
Any other changes? Okay, ready for a motion anytime.
Can you also include the slides from the work session as well?
Oh,
Is that going to be like item B?
Yeah.
yeah. So did we have any, you just want us to look through that, see if there's anything else?
You can look through it if you'd like to. It just is the slides that were on the work session. So if you want to pass the minutes to include those in it.
Got it. Okay, we can add that to the motion. Okay. We're ready for a motion to add those minutes in as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda A council meeting minutes to also include all of the slides from the PowerPoint presentation. And B, Cottonwood Title Company.
Second.
Okay, we have a full motion and a second on that. Thank you very much. Any discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call on that one. We'll do Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
and Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next item on here, item 7, discussion and possible action. The temporary placement of RV parking, I think you should say, during construction process, 3108 South, 3150 West, and for Mr. Wayne Chadwick. Chadwick's here. You want to come up? Just state your name again and address, please.
Wayne Chadwick, excuse me. That's 3108. The new address, south,
This is the test.
3150 West. Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, my wife and I are building on lot 25 over in Highland Ranch, and we're really excited to be in the city. I'm a builder, so we're doing a lot of the work ourselves. And we only have maybe 3 to 4 weeks to finish the home. So the interior is almost finished. I'm doing some stuff on the outside, siding, softened fascia. Inside, all that's left is the plumbing and the electrical fixtures. So maybe 3 to 4 weeks will be finished, and working on it a long hours. We just wanted to be able to park our motorhome in the driveway and for the next three to 4 weeks till we close and finish. So I talked to the inspector, and he asked me about presenting it to the city council to get approval and to get permission. And so I don't know, other than that, what the process is, if it's we're allowed to, or if we need to go park somewhere else for 3 weeks.
Well, we appreciate you coming and talking about it. In your picture on there, I think there's one thing too. I know you got a big A-class motorhome, I think there, right?
Yeah,
A-
yeah,
a
it's
good
fully,
sized motorhome.
it's like 36 foot.
I think it hangs over, or at least it did, onto the sidewalk. Can it be pulled forward a little bit more to miss the sidewalk?
Yeah, I just backed it up so I could work on the front of the house. But yeah, we were thinking of putting it on the side of the garage anyway,
Okay.
or I can pull it up close. That way the sidewalk's not blocked.
I
So,
just, yeah, making sure that we just don't block the sidewalk is all. I think that's what my only concern that I had. But other than that, I think that's great. If the council has any questions.
What would the action be on this?
We're going to go ahead and just do a discussion and action to allow him to
So we
move
just-
forward because it's a conditional.
Just all say aye kind of thing? Okay.
We'll vote.
Okay, I
I
love
think
it.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think the code is a request for a temporary placement of a recreational vehicle during construction. And so it's just an approval of that.
I think we've only done one other.
I think just one. yeah.
Yeah.
We did the one on 4,300, I think, a
Yeah,
few
but
years
okay.
ago, and
We've done 2, the one on 2,700 and the other one.
You're number 3.
The one that I was doing a flag lot right now, they also have
oh,
the
that's
first one.
right.
Okay,
We specify a time on this?
it has to be within the
It's
6
just within the 6 months, it's in the ordinance.
So we're just good to go.
But he's going to have it done in 3 days. So,
So this life ones.
You have no issue with this. We've done it before, so it sounds like you're almost done.
yep, yeah, we're the last stretch, hopefully 3 to 4 weeks. This schedule goes that way, so.
And I'm sure if you don't finish it within the next 3 or 4 weeks, your RV mate is gonna be really upset with you.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve a temporary placement of an RV during construction at 3108 South, 3150 West for Wayne Chadwick.
Second?
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, we'll just go ahead and vote on this one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. You're
All
good
right,
to go.
thank you so much.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
your help on that. All right, item 8, action on resolution 15-2026, construction on improvements along 3600 South in front of Westwood Estates. And we'll turn that over to our city manager, Mr. Sean Warnke.
Yes. So this is a resolution that would essentially consent to the city's participation in frontage improvements along 3600 South. This is relative to the Westwood subdivision. As you know, that's an active development. And as part of the approval, we required them to improve their frontage. There is some existing homes between two of their accesses that would essentially create a gap in the frontage improvements. And so what's being proposed is that we use their contractor to go ahead and finish those improvements. Those improvements would be the city's responsibility. But in doing so, and at this point in time, we would have a better finished product relative to the frontage and the grading or the seal coat or overlay, I should say, which is something that they would do over the entire road. So that's what's before you tonight for your consideration. Ed and John are here, and they can speak to any other questions as they're more involved in the execution of it.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any questions on this?
Sean, I had a question on where at the bottom of the staff report, we're talking about there would have to be a budget amendment. Would that be done now or that can be done later?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So, so within our transportation tax, there are funds that we allocated for sidewalk and right-of-way acquisitions, and those right-of-way acquisitions were for non-WACOG. And what I propose as part of the budgeting process going forward, that we have some money appropriated for these types of instances. And so I think I'll broaden that description out in the budget just to allow for this type of incidents or this type of flexibility. There is a portion of the project that is related to storm drain improvements, and we'll need to potentially look at the budget and where that fund ends and potentially amend the budget. But those are, I think we could move forward with the approval, understanding that that in the end we might need to reconcile the budget at the end of the year or carry over some funds into next year, depending upon the timing of construction and improvements.
Thank you.
Okay, good question. Any other questions?
My only question is that the exhibit doesn't include the cost breakdown. So the resolution doesn't speak to the amount we're spending.
Oh, it should. I mean,
We have it on this one, right? But the actual exhibit itself is only the drawing.
Thank you for pointing that out. We could definitely attach it, and I think that's very appropriate. So
it's for sure this is what it will be, right?
well, I will defer to John and or Ed because I think they're the ones that have been coordinating along with Ryan. But my understanding is yes, that's the
You
amount.
listed the amount in the staff report, and then it's here, but it's just not in the actual resolution itself.
Is it in the whereases? But regardless, I think the best place is where you're looking is the exhibits itself,
Didn't see it in there, whereas.
because then we'll have the full. But
Do you guys read that?
I don't see it.
to that end, I was just going to mention that our engineers did review those cost estimates, and they seem to be in line with what they anticipated the market rates to be.
Yeah. I'm not concerned about that. I just want to make sure that that's what we vote on.
So we just have to approve the resolution, right? Do we add the attachment to the ordinance or the resolution, I mean? Or does it just,
Yes. Yeah, we'll add it to our motion.
okay.
Okay, any other questions on this one?
I don't have a question, just a statement. Obviously, this makes sense to connect those two areas that the developer is responsible for. But I just want to say, it's hard for me to stomach this when we have so many areas of our city that need sidewalks to get children to and from their schools. I mean, we've got 1800 South and so many other roads where kids are actually walking in the road, riding their bikes in the road to get to school. So I just want to say we still need to prioritize those areas. I'm fine with this. It's just hard for me to stomach doing this when, to me, this is not a priority.
I agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Good comment. I guess that's what we need to decide on if we're going to prioritize this, I guess, and put it in. I know the idea behind it is to get it done while it's being done, right, with the other project, which saves costs, correct? So I think that's probably how it's been prioritized.
No, I understand that. I'm sure that it's actually cheaper to do it this way while they're already working on those other areas. I just want to remind the council that we still need to prioritize other sidewalks at some point.
Mr. Mayor, could I?
Yes, please.
Just briefly, we talked about a project at the last city council meeting, which was to install a culvert over on 18th South.
Yep.
So a subsequent conversation that city staff had that I'm actually waiting to get the cost estimate for is to look at continuity of creating sidewalks on 18 to essentially create some safe passage there. And so there's going to be essentially a scenario, the same scenario there where there's, it's on the north side is what we're looking to do, or where we're looking to install those sidewalks. There's 3 potentially homes. I think it's more than 2, but 3 homes right there that create a gap in the existing sidewalk system there. And we're looking to get the cost estimate, include that as part of that project that we would propose in the budget. So that's all to say that we are working on trying to figure out a safer route on 18th South. And we think we do have that ability. The other gaps can be filled in by the connector road and some of the sidewalks that will be installed there. But
Right.
but
Yep.
that's forthcoming and something that we'll show and share with you.
Appreciate that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And we do appreciate the comment on there because I think we all feel like that's important as well. Okay, well, that's where we're at with this one at this point. So if there's no further discussion on it, I'm ready for a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 15-2026, construction on improvements along 3600 South in front of Westwood Estates, attaching the, what?
Estimate breakdown
The estimates to the resolution
from the staff report.
from the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
For that.
You're welcome.
And any other further discussion on this resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on that. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
and Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Item 9, action on resolution 16-2026, award bid for the 5100 road widening project. I guess Mr. Ed McNoy.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tonight, we're here tonight to ask the council to consider awarding a contract for the 5100 West Road widening portion. We've already you previously approved the work that we did in terms of some of the utilities and storm drain. This would actually be for the actual widening itself, and also includes improvements to the 4000 South intersection to accommodate that future signal. So we did get bids on April 8th. We actually had 13 bidders. And Staker Parson Company was the low bidder in the amount of $2,903,200 even. And I think the council's aware we've had a very successful working relationship with Staker Parsons, and we recommend that the council award the project to them.
When will that project start?
Sorry?
When will it start?
Once we get the contracts and award, and there's certain milestones with regard to the school in terms of having sidewalks installed and things like that. It will probably wrap up in the next spring, but we do expect most of the construction done this year.
And it was part of the bid process for the time frame.
Yes.
And, because I know some of those things are going up. I guess in May, some price
Yes.
increases and stuff
Yes.
are happening, so, okay. It's good with that.
It's exciting to see there's 13 bids and the
Yeah.
top 5 are so close
It is,
together. Yeah,
we were pleased with that.
that's good stuff.
Especially when they do sort of cluster, which is good too. Yeah, and, you always have your extremes, but we do get a better feel that we're getting the best pricing when we do this. And yes, so that state site does help attract a lot of bidders.
I know this is a little bit off, but on the bid process, I was reading through all the things that they do on there. There's a lot of things that I don't think Staker does themselves. They probably contract out some of those things. And one of them I noticed on there was like the pavement marking paint. You know, I wondered if the city, you know, we invested in a $40,000 machine for paint for that. And I just wondered, it looked like there was about $4,000. It's pretty minuscule compared to the bid process, but I didn't know if that was something that, you know, the city could do to fill in some of those gaps or not, or if it's just part of the bid process and they are going.
Typically on a project like this, it is part of the bid process. Obviously, when there would be future maintenance, the city would repaint or touch up when necessary.
All right. Just thought I'd ask about it because it's something on there. I just thought that's something that seems like the city.
It's something we certainly can look at. Sometimes it becomes a logistical issue and you don't want to have different contractors. So sometimes it would be more efficient just to have it done as part of the project.
Well, I'm such a penny pincher. What can I say? Just looking after the city as much as we can for cost, but it's a great bid overall.
Yeah, we were very happy with the bid.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 16-2026, the bid for the 5100 West Road widening project to Staker Parsons in the amount of $2,903,200.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Morse.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon. And Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, action on resolution 17-2026, declaring certain parks, recreation, and public works equipment and materials as surplus. Is that something? you wanna
Yeah, and
touch on that
you know, John may also participate because he's been involved in just a general housekeeping project to improve the Public Works and Parks building, and essentially they've been going through the shop. And as you know, that Taylor West Weber has been really gracious to allow us to use some of their property to store. Having said that, you know, they're making improvements and doing their best to improve their property and their site and operations. And so the city staff went through the yard with Taylor West Weber and identified, you know, equipment that is no longer needed, that's been replaced and essentially is just being stored on that site. So with that, you know, city staff prepared the report, identified what those items were, and it's within your purview to declare it surplus. You know, depending on what the equipment is, we'll look to do our best to dispose of it in the most economic and efficient way. And, you know, we're looking to obviously try to recoup costs where we can. But in some cases, depending on the equipment, you know, it might be, you know, scrap. That might be the most economic way to facilitate the disposal of it. So I just wanted to make you aware of it, but we'll do our best to get as much value out of what we have, that surplus, as possible.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Are you guys going to wax it before you get it ready for sale? There's a few things on there. It probably needs a wax job. Yeah. That's some pretty nice equipment, actually. It's just been used, right? Okay. Any questions from the council? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve Resolution 17-2026, declaring certain parks, recreation, and public works equipment and material as surplus.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
And Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. You're good to go. Wax away. All right. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on here. Our presentation by our city manager for our quarterly audit report, Mr. Sean Warnke.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is part of the budgeting process and the authorization to purchase. As you know, by city ordinance, I have this position, I should say, has the ability to make purchases between $5,000 and $50,000. Beyond that, those expenditures are taken to the city council. And so this is the list of items that were within that authorization limit that has been granted to the city manager. And unless there's questions, a lot of the same reoccurring, bills that you see show up that are within that price point, including Weber County Animal Services and some professional services. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I do have one question, Sean. The specialty mining and infield payment for fields, what exactly was that for?
I believe that was you might recall we bought some specialized dirt for our baseball diamonds to improve playability. And in this recent storm, Brock said that they worked wonderfully and performed really well. What would have taken several days to essentially make those fields playable, was playable, within a matter of 24 hours. So it's, the material is working well for its intended purpose.
That's the diamond dirt.
Diamond dirt. Thank you.
Diamond dirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. No
Yes.
questions from the council? Okay. No, excuse me. Okay, we'll move on to item 12, review, discussion, and possible action related to topics associated with the fiscal year of 2027 budget, which includes but are not limited to the general fund, capital projects fund, cemetery fund, stormwater fund, revenues sources, city services, and increase. And again, we'll turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Sean Warnke.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, it's great to continue the conversation with you and get your guidance and direction. And in that regard, I did invite John Wallace, our Public Works Director, to aid in the conversation. Last time, you might recall, we talked about equipment, and the equipment that right now is tentatively being contemplated is largely within Public Works. And so I wanted to be able to have him answer any questions that you have and have a conversation about what makes sense and the timing of those purchases. So I've also wanted to, and I asked Ed to stay over. I think I want to start with a conversation relative to, well, let me start with this one real quick since I'm on this slide and don't want to forget it. We touched upon it earlier, at least Councilmember Swap mentioned that people have missed having a hard copy or a printed copy of the newsletter. And I think there's been feedback over the years since the city transitioned to more of a soft copy of the newsletter. And you might recall I think it was the last city council or last budget, this current budget, we brought back some printed newsletters that occur periodically throughout the year. I think it's once a quarter, and just wanted to understand if that's how you wanted to continue for this upcoming fiscal year, if you wanted to transition back to some additional additional months where there would be a hard copy printed and mailed. One of the things that that's worth noting, and Michelle brought this back to my recollection, but in the newsletter, or not the newsletter, in the resident survey that was done, it asked how do residents get the newsletter, and we did it over, I think in 2022 and 2024 or 25. And I think the majority, and anyone correct me if I'm wrong, especially Michelle, if I go off script here, but my recollection is that the newsletter was the highest rated, but it actually had dropped from 22 to 25. And, I think part of that was potentially the availability of it being available for the public. So, there for a time, it was the highest rated source where residents received news or an information about the city. So any thoughts or direction on that topic?
Council, what do you think? What would you like to do?
Is the 8,400 for the year?
I think it was, and this is this narrative is actually from this current budget, so I didn't really look at it, but I think it was 4, so I think we would quarterly. Yeah, so I think it would be, it does get to be expensive, which is why the city transitioned to doing it online or otherwise distributing it through an email distribution list.
We have the ability to poll within the sewer bill to ask them if they prefer paper or to get it online. That way we can narrow this down. Usually when you do your utility bill, you have the option to do the, online.
Paperless.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Just wonder if that's an option. That way we can narrow that down from almost 5,000 to 2,000.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So those people who are receiving electronic copies, that they would continue to receive electronic copies. And I'm not really sure, and maybe I need to come back and touch upon this after we talk to Sharice to understand the capabilities. I think for them, it's a mass mailing approach where, whatever's available in the bill, I don't think they sort it.
It would probably cost more to try and sort who wants it and who doesn't when they're inserting it in the envelopes.
But you're talking about a paperless bill. So
Oh, okay, not the newsletter necessarily, just no bill at all.
No, so the newsletter itself, if people want to have an e-bill and an e-newsletter, that they have that option,
Ah,
right? And then
They do receive the digital version, or I could be wrong. Yeah, the people who get the physical bill are getting the physical newsletter right now. They're the only ones getting it.
so there are people still getting it every,
No, the physical bill, whether you subscribe or not, still comes to you, which I've always complained about.
Oh.
But I pay it online, but I still get the bill in the mail.
But did you opt into paperless billing, I guess is my
Yeah.
question, and it still is sent?
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah.
There's some things that we could probably work on that. I'd love to see it go out in an email format because I think more people would read it in an email format, but you'd have to do a voluntary email for that.
Mm-hmm.
But
An opt-in is, any sort of opt-in feature when it comes to those types of communications would see very, very low numbers for a very long time. So not even a lot of it. I don't even know that it would be worth it as an opt-in.
if people wanted
Yeah.
to receive it that way, though, they could opt in. And I don't know that it would be beneficial that much, but I don't know how much or how we could separate, those folks from the ones that wanted to receive a copy. It'd be tough. But it's expensive. It is very expensive to go back to it. It's about double what it used to be, if I remember right.
Yeah, well, postage, yeah.
So
Increasing.
that was the reason that we opted to just send it
Yeah.
up 4 times a year. Not
Yeah.
full time.
Well, we have obviously some more time to think about it, but if you have any strong thoughts about it, as far as what you hear from residents, certainly please feel free to pass those along. And
I do have a strong thought on this, and I've brought this up before. Not every resident in our city receives a utility bill. So when we do something like this, we're giving that convenience to only those who get a utility bill, and those that don't hear about all of the other things going on at the West Haven days or anything like that. They're not getting that information. And so has there been any thought to getting a estimate on how much it would cost to also distribute to residents who aren't receiving a utility bill?
yeah, we can, and we'll do that. I think Michelle, that's something that I could work with Michelle, and Michelle could work with Sharice, and we could look at several different options that included, essentially a direct mail notice to everyone in the city.
And that even, extends out to businesses. So that it gets more involved.
I mean, obviously, it would drive up the cost of this, it would drive up the budget, but I just have a really hard time doing this for certain, just, number of residents and not all of our residents.
Yeah. Good point. Good thoughts. So, okay, well, we'll try to get some more information and be able to present based on some of your comments and feedback. That was helpful.
Another question, have you reached out to other cities to find out what they're doing as far as newsletters, whether they're still sending paper newsletters? How are they doing that? Are they doing electronic? How are they doing that? How is that working for them? Just maybe something to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michelle could work on that piece as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hey, one thing I did want to mention is on, I think it's May 6th, I'll verify, but in an upcoming city council meeting, Utopia representative Roger Timmerman will be present and give an update and status. I've reached out to them. As you know, there's the way that arrangement and partnership works is, there's the potential for the city to make contributions based upon shortfall in subscribership, and I still don't think we've met those rates that make essentially subscriber revenue self-sufficient for the debt service that they have. And so that is a possibility that could be an obligation that the city would need to fulfill. But I haven't heard back from him, kind of where his, where Utopia's at relative to the partnership and what that might mean financially for us for the next fiscal year. But I do anticipate that he's going to be here. I think it's on May 6th. That's from my memory. If not, it would be the next council meeting thereafter. So that's something that's out there and a little bit of a wild card, and certainly would have a big budget impact on the city if that was if this was the year that we might need to participate in that way. So I did want to talk to you about let's see if I can shrink this down. This is a big year. As you know, we've been talking about bolstering law enforcement with some additional deputies, and that's through our sheriff's contract. We have several contracts that are coming due relative to professional services that they've reached out to me and asked consideration for adjustments within their wages or within their compensation. And this is one that I wanted Ed just to be aware of. I didn't get a chance to talk to him specifically, but I have had a brief conversation with Ryan. My recollection is that the engineering contract, I think, comes up in September, and it'd be my recommendation that we continue on with Gardner Engineering. It's been since 2020 is what I understand, since the city's adjusted the rates relative to their compensation. Right now, their principal engineer, which is the highest rate for an employee that participates on the contract, is at $100, which is really, I think, an outstanding rate, especially for the level of service that we receive. And so in visiting with Ryan about this potential and the resources that they have invested in providing service, and in addition to some of the limitations we have, nothing's been formalized, obviously, and anything that would be within your purview through an amendment or an adjustment to the contract. But looking back on what the city has done within that time period, it looks like we've granted about 22% increases to employees just based on inflation and trying to meet inflation. And essentially, they said their rates are about, they think it's increased by 28% in that same time period as far as what they're paying their individuals. So you can see actually, so that blue line, the circles are what the city council approved for adjustment in inflation to employee wages. The yellow line is actually what the inflation was, and you can see there were several years that the city wasn't able to meet the same percentage. And so all that said, what Ryan, what they're contemplating or what they would request is somewhere in that 28% increase. I think potentially a fair approach might be to look at what we've granted other employees. Obviously, they're contract employees, and there's a difference. That's at 22. So I think somewhere between the 22 and 28% is something that is within the realm of being reasonable. How that translates into the budget, I asked him to put together this is just for one fiscal year from 2025. I grouped it into funds, and you can see by far what you would expect. The largest portion of the work that they do for the city is in the capital project fund, and that's related to the WACOG road projects and to impact fee related projects. Those, and I think it does make a difference as far as, or important to understand that those funds, are typically paid through grants, through WACOG. The city does usually have a match, so we participate 80-20, and so any increase would probably increase the costs of those projects. So as we applied for new projects, we would calculate that amount into it. Impact fees, to some degree, have the same effect that as we move forward with engineering. And as we contemplate what the cost of those projects are, the engineering fees would adjust accordingly, which, in time would essentially be adjusted to meet the impact fees charged. So I wanted you to see this breakout and the percentage. The general fund, which has the most pull on resources and services provided, it would be a 19%. It's essentially 19% of the work that they did, at least in 2025, and you could see the effect of that. So on the left-hand side is 2025, and then the right-hand side of that slide, that dollar amount is related to what they what would it be in 26 if they did that same amount of work. So it is an hourly rate contract, which is different than some of our other professional services, which are fixed rate contracts. So, any thoughts or concerns about
I think
building?
I think it would be interesting to see from maybe 2020 when we agreed to that contract, what we've spent annually, or what they've billed us annually, along with how much of that was paid for by grants, so we can get a real idea or a good idea of what we've been paying for their services.
Yeah, I can ask them to go back and look at several different years. It might coincide with their billing, so I'm not really sure how much information or, if they use the same billing system, but I will ask them to go back as far as they can within that contract period to see what they can provide to us.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other one is the city attorney contract. Right.
Is that why she's not here?
It has just happened that way. But I've had some ongoing conversations with our city attorney about the contract. The initial term's been fulfilled, and right now the way the contract is structured is it renews. She has asked for or consideration for an increase, and again, there's several different ways to look at it. I do acknowledge, and I wasn't here when the contract was established, and so there's a part of what I'm telling you, I'm relying on what I've been informed on, but my understanding was essentially, according to Amy, that she built the initial fixed rate off $100 an hour, which again I think is a really good rate for professional services, and that amounted to $100,000 a year. There has been increases in, and as you know, she handles both the civil and the criminal, so she acts as the city prosecutor in justice court, and I can see that the work there for that portion of the contract has been increasing, and I anticipate it will continue to increase, especially if there are additional deputies that are doing patrol, or as some of the commercial areas of the city get built out, there's the potential for shoplifting and other crimes that occur in those commercial areas. So I do anticipate that, I have seen that the work has increased over time, looking at the numbers for the criminal side, and I think that's the same thing is going to continue. I've asked Amy to do some additional resolutions. I'd really like to have things formalized by resolution. So for example, we've been awarding bids lately by resolution, and doing some other things that I really think help the city to have a complete record as the city looks back on and looks to find information. So anyways, all those things I think are worth mentioning. She, looking back again at what was occurring and what the city's granted, it's been 11%, and I really do like the way it's structured, frankly, with the fixed rate contract. And I don't want to get too far off from talking about the fiscal impact, but I think it is advantageous for the city to continue a fixed rate contract. And she asked for just a 1% increase just with the work that's also been evolving and increase. And she suggested or requested that going forward that we essentially have the same term or provision that is in Child Richards' contract relative to increasing it commensurate with COLA that's granted. So you might recall that when we renewed Child Richards' contract, that was a term that was included, and it helps to keep the rates current. So what the fiscal impact associated with that change would be $12,000 annually, which again would be fixed because it's a fixed rate contract. Any questions or concerns relative to that? So the public defender, I've met with him as well, and the judge, and others involved in our justice court. And when I met with Zach, he he also requested an increase, and right now he receives $235 per case to serve as the public defender, and he's requesting that that be changed to 250, which would be a 6% increase, which again coincides with the labor statistics, that chart I've been showing you. In that same time period, it's essentially a 7% increase, and so we'd be matching that. There is one of the things that I've learned is there is a recoupment fee that the judge charges in most cases. So if indeed through the criminal justice system that the individual is found guilty or eventually pleads guilty or takes a plea deal or something like that, often the judge will, as part of restitution, they will require them to pay a portion of the amount back for their public defense, and that's done over time. But I think it was essentially we recoup about 25% of what we pay, was my recollection, through the recoupment fees. That's one of the things that we monitor just to make sure that the city isn't in danger of receiving more money in recoupment than we actually paid in public defense, which again, we're far from that, hitting that threshold. But that was something else that has been requested. I think that amounts to about 2,500. I think it was a little, 29, there it is. Yeah, it's 2,900 would be the budget impact for that. So questions or comments on that one as well? As the cases rise, the number of cases that have been assigned to the public defenders also increased as well. So I think it's about 6% of the total cases now. So, okay. So without unduly covering materials that we don't need to, I think what I'll do is I'll show you this slide right here, which summarizes some of the past expenditures and investments that the city's made in equipment. And I do think it's good to obviously be judicious about investing in equipment, but I do think there's a primary investment that the city makes in providing services, and that's by hiring and retaining good employees. But a secondary investment, in my mind, is making sure that they have the equipment to be able to do their job efficiently, professionally, and safely. And so for those reasons, I like to track, what that looks like over a period of time, and that's, you can look to see what we've done. I should have done the average, but it's generally 170 to, looks like, nearing 300 or potentially 300. Obviously, we don't want to invest. We make investments strategically and based on what makes sense and what's essential to providing services to the city. And below that chart, you'll see what's being contemplated, for purchase. And it's right now we're talking about it in this upcoming fiscal year, 2027. We spent some time talking about these pieces of equipment and went through them, and why I don't necessarily think that's necessarily needed unless you do, but I do think there was some questions and comments or a desire to understand some of what's being requested and potentially why it's a good strategic acquisition for the city. And for that reason, I asked John to come. But I will just say, just real quickly, the Ferris stand-up mower, that is not being considered at this point. We're going to continue to run what we have for another year or two. We think that there's, in seeing what the actual amount that we would get in trade-in, we think there's more value in using it for a longer period of time in operations for the city. So that one's not being contemplated in fiscal year 27. We have the concrete grinding machine. We have the fork attachment for the loaders rather than having forks that attach to the bucket. We have a saw for asphalt and for concrete, and a compressor, an air compressor that would allow us to do multiple things, and a bucket truck as well. So with that, I'll stop and see where you want the conversation to go, or what information we could provide that maybe wasn't provided at the last meeting.
So last meeting, we asked if we could put together how many hours we use each of these items and consider renting them, and what the pros and cons would be to the purchase and the actual rental. That's something that we may have put together, we can share.
I didn't get that. I didn't know what you guys had discussed the last time on it, but I can speak to some of that.
Okay.
Some of this equipment we just don't have.
Mhm.
I mean, they haven't had the concrete grinding machine with the trust now. They've sent out a thing that the majority of the claims that they're seeing at this time is trips on sidewalks. And so trying to keep our safe routes and sidewalks free of those, it used to be a program they had where they come out and assess sidewalks and at least how much you're replacing and how much you're improving each year. They're going to roll that out again and ask that we start putting a focus or an emphasis on sidewalks. So the way that they currently do their sidewalks or have been doing them is with a hand grinder and a leaf blower. So
Advertise that, but yes.
right. Well, so it's a piece of equipment that, as we've gone around and we've got the new maps of the safe routes and the school routes and the missing sidewalks and all these kinds of things that we're trying to address, as we assess them, we've come across hazards and trips, and that's part of the whole assessment. But rather than, I think it was like 35,000 to do the city hall, and you can imagine that's just here, imagine doing miles of it, but the cost to have somebody come out to do that work would be extensive. We'd probably do a very small portion every year or whatever. And this allows us to go out with the crews, have the crews go out and take care of as many as we can get through.
Understood.
Hopefully a
So
lot.
if you had that machine today, right now, how many hours do you think you would have on that machine by the end of the year? And so I guess I'm just trying to weigh, what's the difference of us just going and renting one for the week or 2 weeks we're going to use it this year?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I got a feeling we'd put a lot on it.
Mhm.
That's our intent, is to get it out and use it quite a bit. Is that gonna be that we'd put enough hours on it to, I don't know what the rent would be on it, you know what I mean? I don't know what
Not
that
sure.
cost would be to rent it for 3 weeks, a month, I don't know. Some of the problems with renting some of the equipment is we go out and we assess an area and we say, okay, we need to get these 25 trip hazards. And we get the machine, we rent it and do it. Then 2 days later, or after we take it back, a week later, a month later, whatever, we get a call from residents complaining of one that we either go rent to do a single one, or you guys call and say, hey, we got some. And so it starts to drive the price up if we have to keep going back and renting it multiple times a year. Does that make sense? If we rent it for a week and then we go back and rent it for 2 days and we rent it again, but the weighing the cost is something with rentals. There's some things that we do rent and it saves money, and it's probably feasible to do that. I mean, we're not asking for an asphalt roller or something that's massive and expensive because we'll rent it. We'll go out and saw cut and prep a bunch of holes, a bunch of areas where we want to replace asphalt, and then kind of line it up so we rent one and get it done. But as far as the grinder and stuff like that, $36,000 the first year, probably renting it would probably be better to rent, but for how many years? Just, you know what I mean? If we have it, we can continue this program or whatever and keep going with it. Eventually, you're gonna, if it's half that to rent it this year or a third of that in 3 years, that machine paid for itself.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where I don't know what that breaking point would be.
I think the only concern is I look at this, some of these items are gonna be momentary used, right? And we just surplused a whole bunch of stuff today that we weren't using, right? And if we keep buying things that we could have just rented for a few weeks or even a month.
I agree with you on that, and I'm all for that. I have no problems with, like I say, if we rent things, I wouldn't put anything, I wouldn't ask for any equipment or anything that I didn't feel like we would use. There's so much stuff that comes to me from the guys that doesn't make it to you guys, because I'm like, I don't see the value in this. I don't see us using it very often. The things that do get to this point are things that I feel is gonna get used. And when they bring it to me and I look it over and I think, yeah, this is an item that we'll use a lot. So it's just one of them, it'll get used. It'll get used quite a bit. It'll pay for itself at some point, for sure.
Agreed.
It's not gonna sit over in Taylor West Weber's yard. A lot of that stuff that we're hauling away is stuff that's just been worn out and broke down and replaced, and it just never got surplused in the past. It should have been long time, but had weeds growing around it or whatever. But so there's a lot of that too. It's there, you know what I mean? So then, I mean, the forks for the loader attachment, that's, I mean, you've seen the pictures and stuff on that, but we currently use a bucket on the backhoe. It doesn't have the lifting capacity that the loader does. Two, you can't see the forks when you're in the backhoe. And so you got guys trying to guide them in or line them up, or they're punching holes in whatever the product was on the pallet or whatever we're trying to do. So this attachment just makes that process a lot safer and a lot more efficient. It gives you that clear view. It can lift a lot more. It can do a lot more things with it. We have those concrete barriers we move around, the blocks and different things, and this is just a better way to do it. They're
Okay.
set up for that.
Can you walk us through the uses of the bucket truck?
The bucket truck is, well, for one, the guys are changing signs and like street signs up on the pole. I mean, the bottom of a stop sign is supposed to be 7 feet. So you imagine the street signs higher than that. I hate to say how we're doing it, or I hate to say how they've been doing it, but it doesn't meet OSHA requirements to either stand on the bed of a side of a truck or have a ladder in a truck or even lean on a ladder against the stop sign or whatever you're trying to do. So to build, and then we put in all these new speed limit signs, the flashing ones, the school flashing lights, all of the batteries and a lot of the stuff that's in them is at the top in the panel. Just the other day, we had to go out and change a battery, and they're doing it from a ladder. And those are really high. I mean, they're a lot higher than your regular street signs.
Mhm.
And they're up there messing with the lights and doing stuff. So we've had a need for, I mean, they hang banners and stuff. I've seen them doing that in the buckets of loaders, and I've seen them. There's just a lot of things that we do. In fact, what's funny is Dwayne sent me a picture today of a ladder in the back of a truck that was ratcheted into place, which that's smart. I mean, at least it wasn't
We're
just
thinking.
loose.
Yeah.
And he says, he sent me the picture, and I asked him, where is this? And he says, they're working on the scoreboards. And I was like, oh my goodness. There's this, with our signs, they haven't been going through, well, we haven't been going through and doing the sign survey and updating a lot of the reflectivity, the signs, the street signs, all that. That's just something that's kind of been dropped a little bit, I guess. But to be able to go and get a truck that has all the parts, all the tools, all the rivets, all the bolts, all the signs, the blanks, everything already in the truck, and to go out on a job and to quickly maneuver that thing over into place and unbolt, change batteries, change lights, whatever we need to do, I mean, that is a huge time saver, and it's safe for the guys to do it that way. That's a vehicle. I mean, we had other vehicles. I had requests for new bobtails, new dump trucks, new this, new that. we've been okay with we're not there yet with that need. This is a need. It's a need, and as far as the use, this thing will get used a lot. The new sign programs we're doing and stuff, as far as what we're changing out and assessing, and instead of waiting for people to call us and tell us, hey, this is bad and that sign's too low, this sign's too high, the tree limbs are blocking the view, but we're standing on the ground swinging whatever to cut it. It's just going to be used a lot. It's going to be a benefit to the crew.
Perfect.
So
Just the safety aspect alone is. a
the
huge
safety
selling
is
point.
huge.
Yeah.
Because I've watched them doing it with ladders and different things. I'm like,
I will say that concerns me, so.
yeah, no, and it should,
I'm
because
all
it's,
for not violating any sort of OSHA
Yeah.
rules, so.
Or workman's comp cases.
and that was kind of the similar, some of that was similar to the grinder, was when I heard how they, they were doing it with, I just thought, whoa, a hand grinder and a leaf blower?
But yeah, that's not safe either.
No. And they have a hand saw that they use to cut concrete. We want to be able to do more. This saw allows us to do a lot more with asphalt repairs and some of the places where we have really bad soft alligatoring areas or potholes, whatever, we can actually section off, cut out a piece and redo it, and so that's a good item too, to have. These are just things as they came to me, and I look, some of the stuff I was just shocked we don't have. For instance, I'm totally surprised we don't own a roller, but the more I weighed that, the more we probably can rent one. Some of the smaller projects, we can use our vibrating plates and stuff. I mean, there's ways we can not ask for that right now. But I'm kind of surprised that they didn't. I mean, I've never worked anywhere where we didn't have these tools, and even some that they don't have now, but we're just not right there yet. And some of that is staffing and crew size and different things down the road, but yeah.
Hey, John, how big is the compressor you guys need? A tow behind, like what capacity?
I don't remember what the horsepower is. The one they spec'd out for that pricing it's a pretty good, I mean, it's trying to think, 40 horse. I can't remember. I've seen so many of them, but I mean, it's a typical one like we would rent or anybody would see and stuff like that. And if it was just for us, it would be kind of borderline even for me. I mean, but we would use it for busting out concrete and stuff, because the saw doesn't do a circle, and we knock out collars and do different things, and sometimes getting a start on pulling curbs or whatever we need to do there. It's a great machine to have, but also that we can use it for, like the parks can use it for blowing out. Right now they blow out their sprinklers and everything with the Vactron, and it never has enough power to blow anything out. But so it can be used in that application as well. They make an attachment that's like it's a stick thumper, has a ball on the bottom, and it has a handle that's like it's like a compactor. So when we do potholes or when we do anything else, even signs, we can use that to hammer the dirt around the sign. It works really good for that. So if we're actually doing the poles and stuff like that for school zones, street signs, anything like that, it's good to go back around with that thing.
But you guys have the compactor, you just need the compressor. Is that what you're saying?
That compressor has a compactor attachment to it. So there's multiple uses for it, and I think we'll use it quite a bit. I mean, it's something that I think we should get, but I think we benefit from it.
Okay. Any other questions for John?
And if we get it, you can come out and we'll work it.
Like it.
We plan on doing a lot of other stuff. We've got more programs put together. The guys they're busy. Sean mentioned cleaning the shop and the facilities, and they did a really good job with that, cleaning up the yard. As I go in there, them guys aren't sitting around. they're out. Dwayne has them lined up. I mean, every day they got stuff they're doing, they're working on. And a lot of stuff comes from you to us or from mostly from people living in the community. We get a lot of phone calls or whatever. And we're trying to get that minimized. That's the goal, is to get it to where we're proactive and not waiting for these calls. And we definitely don't just sit around and wait for a call. We're out doing a lot of things to be proactive, but the guys are out, they're staying busy, and I think we got a really good crew right now that wants to work, and I want to make sure they have the tools. I don't want them to be, yeah, you know, we probably could use that or whatever, but no, and I like the direction of it right now and their motivation to do it. I just want to make sure they have the tools and equipment to do it. I don't, because they'll cut corners if they have to, you know, it's just, if they have to get it done, they'll get it done. They're that type of guys. If you want something done, we'll go do it. And they might be on a ladder, leaning on a tree limb, fixing cross light. I don't know. So we want to make sure they're safe.
Well, thank you for that explanation.
Yeah.
That helps a bunch.
Yeah, and John, I for one really appreciate your leadership, and I bet those guys do too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The only other thing, just by way of update, I sent you an email, and you know, there's still, for as far along as we are in the budget process, there's still some things that are up in the air a little bit, unfortunately, and these are big items. You know, I mentioned the Utopia one. I'm trying to get some understanding of what that looks like. You know, there's been ongoing conversations with the sheriff's office, and I gave you the most recent update on that as well. I reached out to Julie Stoddard today and asked her if those numbers have been finalized, and they're still not finalized. But I also reached out to the state relative to the energy tax, just to understand, you know, the ordinance that was adopted in the late 90s, just to understand the ability to administratively implement that. I did actually get a response today, but it was just acknowledging that they received it. So I'm still a little ways out in understanding what that looks like. I haven't looked further into the property tax issue, and I think was sort of the consensus. But anyways, that's kind of where we're at. You know, having said that, I feel like the budget's coming along. I'm kind of doubling down, and in some cases working out of office just so I can make sure that I hit some of these deadlines. And I'll have a memo, you know, ready for you as well. That'll be distributed. I hope to do that. It would be next week, actually, because the following Tuesday, then we'll be meeting. And so that said, I'll do my best to bring you know, the best version of the budget to you, realizing, you know, there's still some things that I'm waiting to receive information on, and also realizing that, you know, from the time you adopt the tentative budget, because you will need to adopt a tentative budget on May 6th up until June 17th, which I think is when the final budget will need to be adopted. There's some time to make some adjustments, and so we'll do our best to give you a good version. And to that end, if you know things, you know, based on things we've talked about and discussed that, you know, at this point in the process, you don't want to consider in the tentative budget, please let me know. There might be things that we've talked about in the tentative budget, but won't make it actually into that budget just based upon some financial constraints that the city might have. I think that's very true, or a very reality as it relates to the storm drain fund, because, you know, that fund is not in a great financial position, even though it has some upcoming projects. So we'll have opportunities to talk, obviously, more between now and June 17th when the budget is final. But please let me know if you have questions, concerns, or comments for me. You know, preferably be in this venue just so other council members can hear. But even even still, if it occurs to you after the meeting, feel free to email me, request information, things like that. I'd be happy to try to give that information to you.
I had a question, and I was wondering if you could comment on the assistant city manager position that is in here. Can you explain that to us a little bit and
Yeah.
what that entails?
Well, so, it's something that we talked about when we embarked on the process of the strategic plan. And so that process was really eye-opening to me to sort of understand the breadth of responsibility and how complicated the city is and areas that we could use a more administrative support. And I definitely think there's a need. Frankly, I don't really get involved in the West Haven Special Service District, and that's something that I think could certainly benefit from some more administrative support. That's not to say that we don't have good employees participating now, but it would be more looking at some of the larger administrative issues relative to fees and studies. Frankly, I feel like sometimes the district and city compete for the same resources. And I think that's really unfortunate because oftentimes, the city, just because of some of the scale and scope and just the overall responsibilities, sometimes gets prioritized, ahead of the district. And so, if we did have an assistant city manager, I think that's something that they could participate, as a primary responsibility rather than, the city manager, whose primary responsibility is the city. And so I just feel like there's, if you've had the chance to review the strategic plan, I haven't worked on it since I really started to work on the budget, but I have a new iteration that I'll provide to you at least at the end of the year, and it still probably won't be complete, but I'll show you, I've highlighted the areas that I've adjusted it, so you can quickly see the changes. So don't feel like you'll have to hunt for what those changes are, what those updates are. But I really do believe that there's some great things that the city is doing. I think there's more things that we should be doing, and I think that's what that process brought to my attention. And so, but there's no job description, and frankly, for fiscal year 2027, in light of everything that's occurring in the budget, I'm not proposing that we add staff there, but it's something that I think we need to consider in future fiscal years and prepare ourselves for that. And frankly, I really do believe that if we make those types of investments, I worked for a city and they invested in city staff early on in their evolution, and they were a small city. It was a little bit of a stretch for them, but I think in doing so, compared to the city that was right next to them, who didn't make that same investment, the city that invested in those types of resources actually ended up in a much better position within, like a 20-year period of time. It's just really interesting to see that. And I'm not saying that was all necessarily the investment in city staff, but having a city manager, but that was one distinguishing factor that I could readily see.
Okay.
I think it's something to continue the conversation about.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I
that.
appreciate the time.
You guys being here to do some explanations. Okay. Item 13, for our presentations, if there was anything earlier from our work session, did anybody have any questions about that or concerns? If not, we have on our agenda the executive session. I didn't know if, was that something we needed to?
That's not something we need unless there's any.
Okay, so Emily, what do we need to do for that? Do we just bypass that or need to?
I think it might be best if you just make a motion that you're not going to go into a closed session.
Right, I'm ready for a motion for that.
I will make a motion that we cancel our executive session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on canceling the executive session? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are canceled. We'll move on to item 15 tonight, towards the end of our meeting here. We're going to move to adjournment. And we have a motion.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us tonight. We appreciate it. We hope to see you in 2 weeks.